Until you murder someone, you're pretty much free to do whatever you want in this nation. And if you dare point it out, like I am right now, you run the risk of being called a xenophobic racist. All right, there was a horrible death of a college student in Georgia at the University of Georgia. By now, you've heard about Laken Riley. This video montage that has been put out by her friends and her family there that went to school with her. Laken Riley was just a good old regular college kid in her 20s. You'll see from this video, she's just enjoying life and doing what college kids do. I have two daughters who were basically around the same age as Laken Riley. And Laken Riley was murdered. The circumstances of her murder are horrible, terrible, earth-shatteringly, emotionally devastating for her friends, her family, and really for any American who is witnessing what's going on right now, because she was murdered at the hands of a person who should have never been in this country in the first place, but was allowed to be here. She was murdered by a person who was arrested and detained by the police in our biggest city, New York City, but then released and allowed to walk the streets. She was murdered by a person who now you'll see the media is making excuses for and lying about because they don't want to tell you the truth. They don't want to talk about the truth because they're too invested in the lie. Here's a perfect example of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution telling the story of a murder that took place in their backyard on their beat. 26-year-old Athens man has been charged with murder in the death of a nursing student on the University of Georgia campus. An Athens man? Athens, Georgia? Really? Is that? No, that's not really the truth. In fact, he's barely lived in Athens for several months here. Actually, he's a Venezuelan. He escaped Venezuela claiming that he was in danger there in his home country and he needed asylum here in America. And the Biden administration's policy, of course, is to not ask any questions. Just come on in, baby. We'll take care of you. We'll give you whatever benefits you need to get yourself back on your feet. We'll even send you to New York City, where he ended up until he got arrested. And I assure you, he was not really in fear for his life in Venezuela. He lied to get here, broke the law, was arrested, released, and then murdered this young woman. In fact, ICE has put out the statement with all of the details here. Let's break it down. Jose Ibarra, 26-year-old citizen of Venezuela, arrested by U.S. Customs and Border Protection on September 8th, 2022, after unlawfully entering the United States near El Paso, Texas. Paroled and released for further processing. What does that mean? That's catch and release right there. So right here, I just want to pause for a minute, because the media lies continue to snowball about this. Again, because they're invested in the lie, because they help perpetuate the lie. But right now, I have noted in this statement from Customs and Border Protection 2 policies that were in place during the Trump administration that Joe Biden upended and put in a shredder that allowed this man not only to get into the country, but also to stay in this country. The first was the open border itself, instead of a remain in Mexico, or in this case, remain in Venezuela policy for seeking asylum. And then secondly, catch and release. He was arrested and then paroled within 6 days. On September 14th, 2023, Ibarra was arrested by the New York Police Department. Now, that's just a year after he's been in the country. Charged with acting in a manner to injure a child less than 17. And also a motor vehicle license violation. He was released by the NYPD before a detainer could be issued. A detainer is when local police, either state, county, or municipal, catch someone and they can tell, they know because of their documentation that they're not a U.S. citizen, and then they put out a detainer to ICE to come and get this guy and deport them. A lot of cities don't even go through the motions of doing the detainer because they're called sanctuary cities. I'd love to know here where it says before a detainer could be issued. I wonder if New York Police Department was even going to issue a detainer. On February 23rd, 2024, ERO Atlanta encountered Ibarra pursuant to his arrest by the University of Georgia Police Department, being charged with murder and other crimes. ERO Atlanta lodged a detainer. So now they're thinking about maybe deporting him. So this young woman is murdered by someone who shouldn't have been here in the first place, didn't even belong in this country, and shouldn't have been out because he was charged with attempting to injure a child under the age of 17, released by New York Police Department as well. Never deported. You know, you come here, we welcome you, we give you asylum, then you're seen arrested. You're arrested for harming a child, a minor, and we still don't deport you for that. We just let you walk free. You make your way down from New York to Georgia, and then you murder a woman. And the first lie you saw there was the way the Atlanta Journal-Constitution and other media outlets are just trying to call this murder, you know, local crime. An Athens man who did this. But now we get to today's atrocious, disgusting, despicable lie from the Associated Press, because they have a life lesson here that everybody should be focusing on. They look at the big picture here, and they have a warning for young women in America. The killing of a nursing student out for a run highlights the fears of solo female athletes. First of all, kudos to the Associated Press for even daring to identify what a female athlete is. Because these days, who the hell knows if you can even go the extra mile and identify a female athlete as female. But for their entire takeaway here, you know what the real danger here, the real problem is that women can't go out jogging by themselves because they're a target. Our friend Mary Catherine Ham, an alumnus of Town Hall, felt compelled to respond to the Associated Press. She's also from Georgia and also a female athlete and runner in her own right. Hi, AP, female athlete here, she says. I ran this exact trail every single week of my college career. I guess I could have been snuffed out before I graduated, had a career, family, and the professionals at the AP would lie about the suspect because it fits a preferred narrative. Ibarra is not merely an Athens resident. By the way, the AP in this article about the dangers of being a woman out running in Atlanta, they referred to Ibarra as an Athens resident. They picked up right where Atlanta Journal-Constitution left off. They continue to lie and say this person is a resident of Athens when it's a illegal immigrant from Venezuela. Why? Why? I mean, both are true, I suppose, because he was residing in Athens. So the media makes a decision. How do we identify this guy? Do I identify him as an illegal alien seeking asylum from Venezuela? Or do we identify him as Athens resident? And they make a deliberate choice. And you know why? Because they like to lie. And Laken Riley and every other student was put in danger by not enforcing laws and allowing a man arrested 3 times after crossing the border to hang out and work on campus. He had to escalate to alleged murder to be held and or risk deportation. Good policies, good work. This story even cites the 2018 murder of Molly Tibbet in Iowa as a reason solo female runners should be worried, also without noting her killer was also an illegal immigrant. Just stop lying. Thank you, Mary Catherine Ham. You know, listen, when somebody sees a horrific tragedy like this, you don't want to jump to conclusions and paint with this broad brush all of a sudden and say, you see, this is why we shouldn't do this. But we see crime on an uptick in every major city in America. We see looting. We see murder. We see rape ticking up and ticking up and ticking up. And the numbers show you that a good number of those who are arrested for these crimes are in this country illegally. Does that mean everyone who enters the country illegally is a violent criminal? Of course not. Don't be stupid. Nobody's saying that. What we are saying is that the victims of these crimes, the rape victims, the theft victims, the murder victims, it adds a little extra sting to the horror of being a victim of crime, knowing that the person shouldn't even have been here in the first place. Had no business being in this country, especially when you learn that they've been arrested multiple times and still haven't been deported. I mean, honestly, what does someone need to do to be deported in this country? It used to be that you enter the country illegally, you're caught, you're deported. Then you enter the country illegally, you're caught, you're released, then you're arrested for a crime and you're deported. Then you enter the country illegally, you're arrested, you're released, you commit a crime, but it's not a serious violent crime, so you're put off on your own reconnaissance, and then you're arrested again, and it's a serious crime, like, endangering a child, and then you're deported. But now it reaches a point, as Mary Catherine points out, that until you murder someone, you're pretty much free to do whatever you want in this nation. And if you dare point it out, like I am right now, you run the risk of being called a xenophobic racist. It's a hell of a unifying presidency we've got here, isn't it, under Mr. Biden? By the way, one of Ms. Laken Riley's friends actually tweeted out a picture of her. I want you to see the picture of her. It looks like this is upon her undergraduate graduation. Amanda Babcock says, everyone seems to ask what members of her hometown are doing. Last night, a lot of us ran for Laken to finish her jog for her and encourage women nationwide to do the same. Women shouldn't have to live in fear while running. Say her name, Laken Riley. Yeah, you got that, Associated Press? Maybe the takeaway here shouldn't be that, women face dangers when they're out running on their own. No, maybe the takeaway is there are bad people here and they're being let in by this administration, and maybe we should get serious about that. By the way, some internet sleuths have discovered a statement from Alejandro Mayorkas, the Secretary of Homeland Security, that he made right around the time the illegal immigrant in question here, the suspect in this murder case, Mr. Ibarra, entered this country illegally. Here, take a look.
We announced additional steps we're taking to reduce the number of people arriving at our southwest border irregularly and create a more orderly and safe and humane process for people fleeing the humanitarian and economic crisis in Venezuela. Those who attempt to cross the southern border of the United States illegally will be returned.
That, of course, is a lie, because this person specifically came into this country illegally, crossed illegally from Venezuela, and unlike what Mr. Mayorkas just told you, he was not returned. He was caught and he was released. Meanwhile, Kamala Harris, the border czar, was on Meet the Press this weekend. This is after we had learned the details of this horrific crime. And she was asked point blank, is the border secure?
You're confident this border is secure?
We have a secure border.
Tell the family of Laken Riley how secure that border is.